Hello learners, in this video we're gonna talk about multiplying polynomials. This is gonna be a three-part series because it's gonna be hard for me to cover everything in just one video. So for this lesson we will just talk about multiplying monomial by a polynomial. There are certain skills that you need to master in order to be successful at multiplying polynomials. You should be able to add and subtract monomials, and you should be able to multiply monomials. Now, if you're not yet sure on how to do these things, don't worry, I've already made a separate video for each of these topics, and you can find the link for these videos in the description below. The distributive property is also another important concept in multiplying polynomials. It looks like this. A times b plus c is equal to a times b plus a times c. And a times b minus c is equal to a times b minus a times c. Let's look at some examples and see how this would work out. Example number 1. 3x times 2x plus 4. To answer this, we will apply the concept of distributive property. The distributive property tells us that when we see something like a times b plus c, what we're going to do is we will distribute a across the addition inside the parentheses. So we will multiply a to b, so that's a times b, and then we copy plus, and then we multiply a to c. So that's a times c. We will apply this concept in multiplying 3x and 2x plus 4. So what we're gonna do is we will distribute 3x across the addition inside the parentheses. So we multiply first 3x to 2x. Let's write it here. 3x times 2x. And then we have a plus, so let's write here plus, and then multiply 3x to 4. Let's write it here, 3x times 4. Okay, let's proceed. Multiply 3x and 2x. Remember, we multiply first the numerical coefficients. 3 times 2 is 6, and then we multiply the variables, x times x. We copy the common variable x, and then we add the exponents, right? We have an imaginary one here and also here, so we add 1 plus 1, that's 2, and then we have plus, multiply 3x and 4, we multiply 3 times 4, that's 12, 12 times the variable x, that's 12x. Now we cannot add this further because they have different variables. 6 has x squared and then 12 has x, so they are not like terms, so we cannot add them any further. So this will be our final answer, 6x squared plus 12x. Example number 2, 5x times 3x minus 2. So here we will apply again the distributive property. Remember, distributive property tells us that when we see something like a times b minus c, what we will do is we will distribute a across the subtraction inside the parentheses. So we multiply first a to b, so that's a times b, and notice this time we have minus, so we copy here minus, and then a times c is a times c. Let's write it here. So we will apply this concept in multiplying 5x and 3x minus 2. So we will distribute first 5x inside the subtraction inside the parentheses. So we multiply 5x times 3x. Let's write it here, 5x times 3x, and then we have, this time we have minus, so let's copy here minus, and then 5x times 2. Let's write it here, 5x times 2. Then we multiply 5x and 3x, that's 15x squared. and then we have the minus, copy minus, and then 5x times 2 is 10x. Now take note, we cannot subtract these two terms any further because the first term has a variable x squared and the second term has a variable x. They are not like terms, so we cannot subtract them any further. So this will be our final answer, 15x squared minus 10x. Example number 3. 2x times 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. So this time we have a trinomial inside the parentheses. So what we're gonna do, we will multiply 2x to each of the terms inside the parentheses. So we will multiply first 2x to 3x squared. Let's write it here, 2x times 3x squared. Then we have plus, so 2x times 4x. Let's write it here, 2x times 4x. Then we have another plus, so this time 2x times 5. Let's write it here, 2x times 5. So we will multiply now these two monomials. 2x times 3x squared is gonna be 6x. Then we add their exponents, right? 1 plus 2, that's 3. Plus, multiply these monomials. 2x times 4x. 2 times 4 is 8. X times x, we copy the common base x and then we add their exponents. 1 plus 1, we add their exponents. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then we have plus, and then multiply these monomials. 2x times 5 is 10x. Now the first term has a variable x cubed, the second term has a variable x squared, and then the third term has a variable x. So these terms are not like terms, so we cannot add them any further. So this will be our final answer, 6x cubed plus 8x squared plus 10x. Example number 4. We will multiply 4a to negative 2a squared plus 3a minus 6. So same thing we do, we will distribute 4a across each of the terms inside the parentheses, starting with 4a and negative 2a squared. So let's write here 4a times negative 2a squared, and then we have plus 4a times 3a. Let's write here 4a times 3a, and this time we have a minus. So let's write here minus, and then 4a times 6. 4a times 6. Let's multiply 4a times negative 2a squared. 4 times negative 2, that's negative 8. Then a times a squared is a to the power of imaginary 1 plus 2, that's 3. So it's gonna be negative 8a cubed. Copy plus 4a times 3a. 4 times 3 is 12, and then a times a is a squared. Then we have minus, right here minus 4a times 6 is 24a. This will be our answer. Example number 5. Negative 3x times 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. So what we're gonna do, we will distribute negative 3x to each of the terms inside the parentheses. Let's begin with negative 3x and 2x squared. So let's write here negative 3x times 2x squared. Then we have a minus, so right here minus, and then negative 3x times 5x, negative 3x times 5x, and then we have plus, so right here plus, negative 3x times 1. Let's write here negative 3x times 1. So now we multiply negative 3x times 2x squared, negative 3 times 2, that's negative 6, x times x squared, that's x cubed, and then we have minus, so right here minus, negative 3x times 5x, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, and then x times x is x squared. We put it inside the parentheses, and then plus, so let's write here plus, negative 3x times 1, so that's negative 3x. We put it inside the parentheses. So we will now have to make an extra step. So we copy negative 6x cubed, and then notice we have here the minus, and then we have a negative 15. So basically what will happen is negative times negative is positive, right? So minus negative 15x squared will become plus 15x squared, and then here notice we have plus and negative 3. Remember, positive times negative is negative, so we just simply write here negative or minus 3x. So this will be our answer, negative 6x cubed plus 15x squared minus 3. Example number 6, negative 6p times 4p squared minus p minus 3. So the same thing we're gonna do. We will distribute negative 6p to each of the terms inside this parenthesis, starting with negative 6p and 4p squared. Let's write it here, negative 6p times 4p squared, and then we have a minus, so let's write here minus, negative 6p times p, let's write it here, negative 6p times p, and then we have another minus, so let's write here minus, and then negative 6p times 3, so that's negative 6p times 3. So now let's multiply negative 6p times 4p squared. It's gonna be negative 24p to the power of imaginary 1 plus 2, that's 3, and then we have the minus, and then negative 6p times p. Remember, there is an imaginary 1 here, so when we multiply negative 6 times 1, it's gonna be negative 6, and then p times p will be p squared. Let's put it inside the parenthesis, and then we have a minus, and then negative 6p times 3. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18 times p, that's negative 18p, and then we put it inside the parenthesis. So we'll take an extra step now to remove the parenthesis. Copy negative 24p cubed, and then notice we have here minus and a negative. Remember, negative times negative is positive, so we put here plus and then 6p squared, and then again we see here a minus and then a negative. Remember, negative times negative is positive, so we can say minus negative 18p will be plus or positive 18p. So this will be our final answer. Okay, let's have our last example. 5p times negative b cubed plus 6b squared minus 2b plus 4. So same thing we're gonna do. We will distribute 5p to each of the terms inside the parenthesis, starting with 5b and negative b cubed. So let's write here 5b times negative b cubed, and then we have plus, so I'll write here plus 5b times 6b squared, 5b times 6b squared, and then a minus, so let's write here minus. This time we have 5b times 2b. Let's write here 5b times 2b, and then we have plus, so right here plus. This time we have 5b times 4, so let's write it here 5b times 4. So now let's multiply 5b times negative b cubed. So you can think of this, you can think of negative b cubed as having an imaginary negative 1 here. So when we multiply 5b and negative 5b cubed, we multiply 5 times negative 1, that's negative 5, and then b times b cubed, that's gonna be b to the power 4, plus 5b times 6b squared, that's 30b cubed, and then we have here minus, so copy minus, 5b times 2b, that's 10b squared, and then we have a plus, so 5b times 4, that's 20b. So this will now be our final answer. So that's it for our examples. We have 7 examples for this lesson. So now for your activity, you have here 5 items for you to work on. Feel free to play again the video from the beginning so that you'll have a good idea on how to answer this. On our next video, we will talk about multiplying polynomials part 2. So it's gonna be on multiplying binomial by a binomial. If you find this video helpful, do me a favor, kindly click subscribe and also like and share the video so that we will be able to reach as many learners as possible. Also, do not forget to click the notification bell so that you will be updated whenever we will add a new lesson to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you all soon on our next video.